Hello, outdoor families. My name's Rebecca Roy, and I manage the interpreter program for Vermont State Parks, and I also coordinate Project Learning Tree in Vermont. Project Learning Tree, or PLT, is an environmental education curriculum for grades preschool through 12, and here's what the curriculum looks like. Folks receive this through participation in a workshop, but PLT has a whole bunch of free family activities available on their website, which is plt.org. And you can go there and search for family activities and find a whole bunch of different things you can do really easily in your backyard. And I'm going to share one of those with you today, which is called Looking at Leaves. This is one of my favorite activities. And I'm talking to you today from a town forest in my community. But this activity, you can do it in your yard, in a little town park nearby, in a state park. And if you're in Vermont, you probably have a town forest available in your community too, which is a wonderful place to go. You don't need to travel far. Anywhere that you have a couple trees, you can do these activities. So just head out and get started exploring. It's really fun. So I like to start out by sharing some books. And here we are in the autumn, and this is a wonderful activity to do in the autumn because all of our deciduous trees are turning colors and shedding their leaves. And I brought a couple books to show you that I really like. One is Let It Fall, which is a rhyming story about what autumn is like and what's happening and getting ready for winter. So that one's really fun. And then the other one that I brought today is Chipmunk on Hollow Tree Lane, which is a wonderful story about a chipmunk getting ready for winter. So it's all about a chipmunk gathering food to store and what she does to store her food, and also about what she's eating and what she's planning for her winter. So she's got a whole bunch of food stored down in her little tunnels, and just beautiful artwork and a really cool story about the chipmunk getting ready for winter. So that's a fun thing to read and look at. And there are a lot of different fantastic autumn books that you could read. And I know that Vermont is full of a lot of wonderful librarians who could help you find even more great autumn books to read to kick off this activity. So I like to start with that. And then heading outside to explore around and look at leaves and collect leaves. So you can invite your children to go around and collect some leaves and then bring them back to compare them. So you end up scurrying around, and I like to pretend to be chipmunks, like scurry around gathering leaves together to look at like little chipmunks. And then hopefully you'll end up with at least a few different kind of leaves to check out. And I just scurried around like a chipmunk and gathered up some leaves. So I found this one, that one, that one, this one, and this one. And then one other cool thing that I found were some needles, which is really cool because our conifers or our evergreen trees have needles instead of the broadleaves like our deciduous trees. So that's another cool thing that your kids can check out while they're out and about. There's a wide variety of different leaves and needles that trees grow. It's really cool to really check it out. Okay, so they bring these back and then invite them to really feel them. Feel the texture of the leaf. Is it soft? Is it thicker? Is it thin? What does it really feel like? You could smell it. What does it smell like? Really just explore it and then compare the leaves. Look at them together and touch them together, one in each hand. Like, what feels different about this leaf versus this leaf? And really share words describing that. One of the things that I like to do in exploring leaves is to make a leaf rubbing. So you can take your favorite leaf, put a white piece of paper over it, and then use a crayon that's been totally peeled, rub it on the side completely over the leaf on top of the paper, and then you end up with a really nice leaf rubbing to remember your leaf by. And that's a nice scarlet oak that I found that I rubbed, which is a really cool one to keep. Any tree with like really great ribbing does nicely with that activity. Okay, so you've really been exploring them and talking about it, sharing words and saying, hey, look at this one, it's really cool. You're having fun exploring the leaves. And so the next thing you might want to do is figure out what similarities you maybe see in the trees around you. So if one of you found this leaf, you might want to go around and see which tree it came from. You found it on the ground, like where did it come from? And then look around and see how many other trees around has the same leaf. How many trees around are the same type of tree? Keep looking around and explore with all your leaves, like where did all these leaves come from? Do a little investigation of that, and hopefully you can figure that out. You know, like what other tree has this small little yellow leaf? Look around and see if you can figure that out. So that's a fun little scavenger hunt. And after you do that, you might want to figure out what type of tree they are, to actually name them and identify a tree, which is really, it's a fun activity to do. And I recommend using a field guide for this part, and you can check these out of the library. Today I brought two of my favorites. I love trees, so I have a ton of field guides. But I brought two of my favorites today that are pretty easy to use. One is the Peterson Field Guide of Eastern Trees. I like this one because it has color photos, but it also has illustrations about the leaf and the twig that help with identification. And then the other one that I brought is the Audubon Field Guide to North American Trees. And this one's great because it has close-up pictures of the bark and the leaves. So you can just kind of flip through. There are more complex field guides with dichotomous keys, but you don't need to worry about that. It'll be fun to just explore the book with your children and use the pictures to help you identify the tree. There's a couple terminology things that might help you with your identification. One is leaf margin. So this leaf is lobed, which means, see, it has these little bumpies that stick out. This one, large one, is also lobed. It has 3 lobes. This leaf does not have lobes. It's entire, so no lobes. So that's one thing that you can use to separate different types of trees and leaves to figure out. Another thing that's really super helpful is the branching of the leaves. There's 2 different kinds of branching. One is opposite and one is alternate. And so if you look at a tree and you see any branches that are growing directly across from each other, see that? Directly across from each other, that means it's opposite branching. And as trees like grow old and the wind is whipping them around, branches break off. But if you look up at a tree and you see anything that's opposite of each other, you know it's an opposite branching tree. And in Vermont, there's not a lot of trees that are opposite branching. Our maples are, and our ash trees are, and our dogwoods are. Dogwoods tend to be smaller understory trees or shrubs. So most likely you're looking at a maple or an ash if you see that opposite branching. All of our other trees are alternate branching, which it means that a branch comes off here, later on another branch goes off here. So none of the branching is opposite. So that's a big clue to help you identify them. But you don't need to assign them a name to do this activity. You can make up your own names, which is really fun too. It's all about just exploring and getting out there with your family, looking closely at leaves. And when you're done, you can build a big leaf pile and jump in it. So have fun out there, outdoor families.